Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in today. I'm super excited to have you here. For those of you that don't know me, I am Jessica from 20dishes.com, and today I'm going to be talking about healthy sweetener alternatives because we are entering the time of year where everybody's going to be doing lots of cooking and baking and making sweet treats for family and friends. So let's ditch the refined and processed sugars and substitute some healthier options. So I'm going to go over those with you today. Before I forget though, I wanted to mention that we did extend our sale on our memberships and our Instant Pot ebook for one day, for today. It ends tonight at midnight. We now accept both credit cards and PayPal. So if you had held off on buying, you have 14 more hours to get those orders in. So the membership prices are the lowest that they've ever been, and they're going to be going back up. So if you've been on the fence about joining 20 Dishes, today would be the day to lock in the super low rate because we won't do any rate increases on you. You'll get to keep that rate for the entire time that you're a member of 20 Dishes. So go ahead and lock that in. And then our new Instant Pot ebook we just released last week. And I know a lot of you guys probably got Instant Pots over the weekend with Amazon's awesome sales. So they'll be arriving any day now if they're not already here. And so this book will get you started with 20 awesome make-ahead freezer meals that you can use with your Instant Pot. Super easy, super fast, super delicious. So I've got links down in the video description below or above or wherever it shows up for you guys to check that out if you want. So let's go ahead and dive into the sweeteners. Now, when it comes to natural sweeteners, there are tons of options out there, way more than what I'm gonna go over today. So today I'm actually just gonna talk about the sweeteners that I use in my own home, and I'm not going to talk about other things that I don't have any experience using, but I was just at the store yesterday and I saw a whole bunch of new sweeteners that I had never seen before. The first one that I saw that was really interesting was a date syrup. I've seen like granulated date sugar before, but I've never seen the date syrup. So that might be something to consider using maybe as an alternative to corn syrup or to heavy corn syrup. There was also yacon syrup as well, if I'm saying that right, and so I had never seen that either, and it looks like a thick kind of syrup that maybe you could use in place of corn syrup as well. So let's go ahead and dive into my 6 favorite healthier sweeteners that I use in my home. So I use honey. Honey is probably the classic natural sweetener. So this is just organic mountain forest honey. It's a light color. You can get honeys in all sorts of shades. It really depends on what the bee is eating when that determines the shade of the honey. So the lighter honeys all the way up to the darker honeys, they're going to have different tastes. I prefer lighter colored honeys for most of my stuff. I'm not a huge fan of a really strong honey taste. So honey and maple syrup are the 2 main liquid sweeteners that I use. So maple syrup, this is grade A dark color. So it used to be called grade B. So grade B is technically the darkest of the syrup, and it has the highest mineral content. So I always used to say get grade B, but they've changed all of the legislation now. So now it's called grade A dark color. So when I was at Whole Foods yesterday picking up a bottle of maple syrup, they had like 3 or 4 different colors of maple syrup. So look for grade A dark color. So and this even has a little thing on there, so it's previously grade B. So they had to go and change it all and confuse us all and all that stuff. So both maple syrup and honey can be used in place of corn syrup or any of your other highly refined liquid sweeteners. So Kelly, actually our other co-founder of 20 Dishes, she uses maple syrup or honey in her pecan pie. So any recipe that calls for corn syrup or heavy corn syrup, you could use maple syrup or honey and it'll turn out just fine. And I'm gonna link down in the video description below, they're actually already there, but there are a couple of links to recipes that you can try out. So we've got a post that has 20 pumpkin, like real food pumpkin recipes in there. And then we just published this morning a post for a pecan fudge bar. And it's absolutely amazing. So make sure you check those out. And the fudge bar actually uses honey, so you can kind of see how it works in that recipe. So both maple syrup and honey, great alternatives to corn syrup. Another sweetener that I use is molasses. Now molasses has a super strong flavor. A lot of people don't really like it. So it's something that you use sparingly, and you typically only use molasses in recipes that have really strong spices. So like your gingerbread, things that are going to have lots of cloves and nutmeg and cinnamon and ginger and stuff in there to kind of help with that flavor. But the awesome thing about molasses is that it's super high in minerals. So only 1 tablespoon of it contains 600 milligrams of potassium, which is huge. Everybody could use more potassium. It's also got a bunch of other minerals in there too. So this is actually one sweetener that even my own health practitioner recommends using a little bit whenever you want, just because you get a big mineral boost from it as well. So there's some recipes out there. If you just Google like a molasses tonic, there's some different like recipes that use molasses like little beverage form. But for baking and cooking, you want to use it in things that are going to have a lot of spice, a lot of flavor in there, because it does have kind of a metallic-y mineral flavor to it, so it can be really overpowering. So oftentimes you'll either use this minimally or combine it with other sugars so that it doesn't overpower your recipe. But blackstrap molasses is another great alternative. Another great alternative for refined sugars is coconut sugar. So coconut sugar can be used really as an alternative to any kind of granulated sugar that you want. So this is madhava, and it comes pretty finely ground. I don't know if you can really tell right there, but it's pretty finely ground. So I just substitute this 1-for-1 in recipes that call for cane sugar, and it turns out fine. It's also an excellent substitute for brown sugar because it has kind of that browned caramelized flavor to it naturally. So it works really well in things like streusel toppings or things that call for brown sugar. So you could use this really in place of any kind of refined granulated sugar with no problem. It's going to be a little bit less sweet than regular cane sugar, but as you start using more alternative sweeteners, healthier sweeteners, you're going to notice that your taste buds will change. So things that maybe you wanted to be super sweet before, you'll start noticing that you really don't need it as sweet. So as you start working your taste buds further and further away from those refined sugars, your taste buds are going to change. So coconut sugar, great option. So I have 2 more sweeteners I want to talk about. So the first one is stevia. So this is the liquid stevia. Now I know a lot of people have kind of a love-hate relationship with stevia. I personally use stevia primarily in my home because I don't really eat a lot of sweets. I try to keep my sweet consumption to a very minimum. Stevia is 0 calories. It's not technically a sugar. Your body doesn't respond to it like sugar, so it doesn't spike your insulin. But it does have kind of a different taste. So some people don't really like the taste. So what I recommend doing is, if you're going to use stevia to help cut down the calories and the sugar content of your whatever recipe you're fixing, I recommend blending it with some other kind of sweetener. So if it's a recipe that has a lot of fruit in it, that natural fruit sugar is going to help kind of offset it has kind of a green taste. Some people say it kind of tastes like an artificial sweetener. I don't really taste that to me, but it has kind of a different taste. So if you use something that has a lot of fruit in it, the natural fruit sugars are going to kind of offset some of this taste, but it's a great way to help reduce the total sugar content in whatever you're making. And you can use either the liquid or the powder, and a little bit goes a long way. Like, I don't know if this one says on it, but I think I've read that stevia is like something like 20 times sweeter tasting than regular sugar. So really you only have to use a little bit at a time. So this is one that I use quite a bit in my own home. And the last one that I want to touch on is called erythritol. Now this is in the sugar alcohol family. Sugar alcohols are not going to be suitable for everybody. The biggest issue that happens with sugar alcohols is digestive distress. So sugar alcohols, they're not metabolized by the body like regular sugar. So when you consume sugar alcohols, it tastes sweet. It gives things that sweetness, that sweet flavor, but it's pretty much excreted. It goes through the body and is excreted pretty much like it comes into the body. So, you know, there could be some debate. I know in the real food world, some people say that sugar alcohols aren't great. Some people do use them. A lot of people who are suffering from things like candida use a lot of sugar alcohols. There's erythritol, there's xylitol, there's a whole bunch of them because it doesn't feed the candida. So they can still have some sweet stuff along with the stevia without feeding the candida. So the erythritol is actually the only sugar alcohol that I can tolerate. So xylitol, I will get into the details, but xylitol does not agree with me. The erythritol I have no problem with. And so this is a granulated sweetener, and it's about 70% as sweet as regular sugar. So you could use it as a replacement in whatever you're calling for, like granulated cane sugar or whatever refined sugar you're looking for, but you may need to add just a tiny bit more. With the sugar alcohols, I do recommend that people start out very small, that they test it and see how they're going to react. A lot of people have no issues at all, but some people do have some digestive discomfort and distress. So like I said, the xylitol doesn't agree with me, but the erythritol does. So this gives you a few ideas. So we have erythritol, we have stevia. Both of those are non-nutritive sweeteners, essentially. They don't spike your blood sugar. They're not really super well metabolized by the body, so that's part of the reason that they don't spike your blood sugar. So those are two options for people who are looking for lower calorie or maybe really needing to avoid sweets, but want a little bit of a sweet something for the holidays. Those might be two sweeteners to look into. The other sweeteners that I mentioned was the coconut sugar, which is granulated, can be used in anything that you have a recipe for that calls for any kind of granulated sweetener. So it's a great cane sugar replacement. Blackstrap molasses, which is full of minerals, super, super good for you, but very, very strong tasting. So you want to be careful when you're using this so that it doesn't overpower everything else. Maple syrup, which you're going to look for the grade A dark color. Whenever you're searching for that, it's going to have the most nutrition in it. It was previously grade B until they changed everything. And then your honey. So honey, all different kinds of colors and flavors and stuff. I prefer the light colored honey for most of my stuff, just because the flavor is a little bit more mild. And both the maple syrup and the honey can be used in place of your corn syrup and stuff like that. So feel free to experiment with some of these sweeteners this holiday season and see if you can make your baked goods and your cookies and whatever it is that you're making a little bit more healthy. And what I would recommend doing is checking out the recipes that we have linked below. And also, if you're completely new to alternative sweeteners and don't really know how to use them in your cooking and baking, you can Google for recipes, but you could also check out agirlwe'resaving.com, which is Kelly's website, and deliciousobsessions.com that's my website. And we both have tons of baked goods, sweet treats, dessert recipes that are all refined sugar-free. So you could go check those out if you need any insight as well. And I'm looking at my notes because I now have to make notes for myself so I don't forget anything. But I think that covers pretty much everything. I didn't want to go into a ton of detail about this today, but hopefully it gives you some new inspiration and new ideas for your holiday baking. So if you have questions, leave them down in the comments below. I will be happy to answer them. And we will be back again tomorrow. I think Orletha has a delicious peppermint mocha, if I remember correctly, recipe coming up tomorrow. So make sure you stay tuned on 20dishes.com or 20 Dishes Facebook page for that recipe. So it's going to be great. So I will sign off for now. I will talk to you guys again very soon. Have a great day and a great week, everyone. Bye.